Sutra. Fourth, this person thoroughly investigates the formation skandha to the point that it becomes empty. Based on what he sees in his mind, he speculates that each and every living being in his given body is half living and half dead. From this, he concludes that everything in the world is half finite and half infinite. Commentary. Fourth, this person thoroughly investigates the formation skandha to the point that it becomes empty. What is the fourth distinction? It is that of the living and the dead. He examines the formation skandha to the utmost extent until it becomes empty, based on what he sees and understands from his investigations. In his mind, he speculates that each and every living being in its given body is half living and half dead. This is another false speculation and false attachment. He sees any given living being's body as half living and half dead. Since living beings are like that, he draws conclusions about the whole world. From this, he concludes that everything in the world is half finite and half infinite. Life is on the side of the finite, and death is on the side of the infinite. That is a conjecture. The more he runs, the further away he gets, Sutra. Because of these speculations about the finite and the infinite, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the body nature. This is a fourth external teaching which postulates finiteness. Commentary. Because of these false speculations about the finite and the infinite, what does he conjecture? If it's not finite, then it's infinite. If it's not infinite, then it's finite. He keeps going back and forth like this and generally does not stay on the middle way. He either goes too far or does not go far enough. Either he runs far away or he doesn't even take a single step. Therefore, he will lose proper and pervasive knowledge and fall into externalism. External teachings either go too far or else they don't go far enough. Neither going too far nor coming up short is the middle way. We should cultivate the middle way. The Buddha spoke of the ultimate truth of the middle way as neither falling into emptiness nor falling into existence. If you lean to the side of emptiness or the side of existence, then you fall into duality. It's called an external teaching because there are two sides, and he will become confused about the true body nature. He does not recognize body. This is the fourth external teaching which postulates finiteness. Sutra. Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. But if he begins to speculate on what he knows and sees, he could fall into error with four distorted, false theories, which are total speculation based on the sophistry of immortality. Commentary. Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. This refers to all good pupils who are cultivating and abiding in samadhi. This samadhi is cultivated by many pupils, not just one. Since the cultivator has a steady mind in which samadhi and wisdom are equally balanced, there is no opening for the demons to get at him. But although external demons cannot bother him, internal demons arise. Internal demons are the demons created from transformations in his own mind. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. He looks into the origin of the 12 categories of living beings, examining the primal purity of their nature. The constant fluctuation is a very subtle, attenuated motion that occurs in the formations skandha. But if he begins to speculate on what he knows and sees, before he has such thoughts, there is no problem. But as soon as those thoughts arise, there is trouble. As is said, opening the mouth is a mistake. Entertaining thought is wrong. As soon as you have a false thought, problems arrive. He could fall into error with four distorted, false theories, which are total speculation based on the sophistry of immortality. Total speculation refers to the nature that is total speculation and attachment, which I have discussed before. It is a kind of false attachment. He becomes attached to something that is not true. January 1983. Looking into the question of who is reciting the Buddha's name is called investigation. As I have said many times before, investigation means concentrating on one thing. With concentration, it is efficacious. With distraction, nothing is obtained. Concentration can be compared to drilling a hole with an awl or to using a diamond drill to drill steel. The drill penetrating to the other side represents enlightenment. Who is reciting the Buddha's name refers to reciting in one's mind. Investigating means searching, which is different from speculating. Searching means concentrating and looking in one place, searching for who. It means looking into a principle. Speculating, on the other hand, is not a single thought. Rather, it involves thinking about this and about that and making comparisons. Speculation means having a lot of false thoughts, while investigation consists of one false thought. One who is speculating thinks about several things and cannot make up his mind. He thinks about the heavens and wonders what kind of clothes God wears, what kind of hat he wears, how big his eyes are, how long his ears are, and how wide his nose is. He speculates on God's measurements, trying to measure God's size in inches and feet. But ultimately, is God really the way he speculates him to be? He's never seen God, so his measurements may not be right. He also thinks about the earth, speculating on the earth's gravitational pull, how big is the Earth's center, how large is the Earth's surface area, how many specks of dust are there on the Earth. He estimates that the Earth is composed of 100 million times 84,000 specks of dust amassed together. He's guessing and calculating on his own, but probably even a computer wouldn't be able to compute this figure. He tries to use himself as a computer to compute it, but he can't come up with the head or tail of an answer, so he thinks it's rather freaky. Therefore, investigating does not fall under the formation skandha. It is not under form, feeling, thinking, formations, or consciousness. Reciting means you recite in your mind, concentrating single-mindedly. For example, when you recite Namo Amitabha Buddha, there is only the phrase Namo Amitabha Buddha, and you have no other false thoughts. This is called fighting poison with poison. If you have lots of false thoughts, then the poison is too great and you will surely die. Sutra. First, this person contemplates the source of transformations, seeing the movement and flow, and he says that there is change. Seeing the continuity, he says that there is constancy. Where he can perceive something, he says there is production. Where he cannot perceive anything, he says there is destruction. He says that the unbroken continuity of causes is increasing and that the pauses within the continuity are decreasing. He says that the arising of all things is existence and that the perishing of all things is non-existence. The light of reason shows that his application of mind has led to inconsistent views. If someone comes to seek the Dharma asking about its meaning, he replies, I am both alive and dead, both existent and non-existent, both increasing and decreasing. He always speaks in a confusing way, causing that person to forget what he was going to say. Commentary. First, this person who is about to go down the path of confusion contemplates the source of transformations in his formation skandha. Seeing the movement and flow, he says there is change. He observes the flowing of the formation skandha and says it is undergoing changes. Seeing the continuity, he says there is constancy. Perceiving the formation skandha continuing on without cease, he calls it constancy. Constant means unchanging. Change implies impermanence, while lack of change implies permanence. Where he can perceive something, he says there is production. When he contemplates the formation skandha, some areas are visible to him. He sees the subtle movements and describes them as a production. Where he cannot perceive anything, he says there is destruction. He cannot detect the tiny movements of the formation skandha, so he says this is destruction. In other words, he can perceive the events within 80,000 great aeons. So he says they have come into being. He cannot see the events beyond 80,000 aeons. So he says they have ceased to be. This is similar to the previous cases. He says that the unbroken continuity of causes is increasing. When the causes continue without interruption, he says there's an increase. That's another aspect of the formation skandha that he perceives, and that the pauses within the continuity are decreasing. Within the continuity, there are pauses, and he says there are a decrease. For example, when the 25 sages described their perfect penetrations, one of them talked about the pause between inhaling and exhaling. That is also a pause. He calls the pauses within the continuity decreasing, but you shouldn't follow his theories because he is making up his own terminology based on his perceptions, and they are fundamentally untrue. Don't look for rational principles in his theories. He just made them up and they are totally irrational. That's why these are considered the views of external sects. There's no truth in them. He says that the arising of all things is existence. He watches things arise within the formation skandha, and he calls that existence, and that the perishing of all things is non-existence. He calls the place where everything passes away and nothing exists non-existent. These are the four distorted theories. The light of reason shows that his application of mind has led to inconsistent views. If you examine his theories in light of reason, you see that they are all wrong. He used his mind in the wrong way. This time, if someone comes to seek the Dharma, asking about its meaning, requesting instruction on the principles of Buddhism, he replies to the person, I am both alive and dead, both existent and non-existent, both increasing and decreasing. He always speaks in a confusing way. He very ably defends both sides of the issue. If he isn't talking about existence, then he's talking about non-existence. If he's not discussing emptiness, then he's discussing form. Because he speaks from both sides, he cannot find the middle way, causing that person who is seeking the Dharma to forget what he was going to say. Faced with the first person's nonsensical explanations, the questioner forgets all his questions and cannot recall what he came to seek instruction in. What kind of instruction would you call that? People come wanting to understand, but the cultivator confuses them until they lose all sense of what is right. They lose not only their train of thought, but also their original wisdom and clarity of mind. This person is confused, and he makes others confused too. Sutra. Second, this person attentively contemplates his mind and finds that everything is non-existent. He has a realization based on non-existence. When anyone comes to ask him questions, he replies with only one word. He only says no. Aside from saying no, he does not speak. Commentary. The person only knows about nothingness, so he talks in a crazy way. He denies the existence of everything. No matter what you ask him, he says no. That's the only word he says. Second, this person attentively contemplates and examines his mind and finds that everything is non-existent. Among the 12 categories of living beings, he feels that in the mind of the formation skandha, everything is gone. At the point where he sees nothing, he has a realization based on non-existence. He thinks that he has attained wisdom based on non-existence. Actually, he doesn't understand. He has gone too far overboard, and his views are completely irrational. He's enlightened. What did he enlighten to? The word no. So when anyone comes to ask him questions, he replies with only one word. People think he must be a seasoned cultivator because he keeps his eyes shut and nurtures his spirit, not saying a word all day long. He is nothing except a few bananas, thinking that he is a sage. They request the Dharma from him. When they do, he really knows how to put on an act by giving one-word replies. This tactic is called one-word churn. People call it that because they don't understand what he's talking about. No matter what you ask him, he only says no. How should I cultivate, you ask? No. Should I recite the Buddha's name? No. Do you think it would be a good idea to observe the moral rules and receive the precepts? No. His continual response of no bewilders you and you forget what you were going to say. You wonder, what does he mean by no? No what? You can't figure it out, but then it finally hits you. Oh, there really is nothing, is truly nothing. Aside from saying no, he does not speak. You may ask him one question, then 10 questions, 100, 1,000, 10,000 questions, or 10,000 questions, but he will always answer no. Then you think the Chan principles he's talking about must be too lofty. That's why we can't understand them. Sutra. Third, this person attentively contemplates his mind and finds that everything is existent. He has a realization based on existence. Anyone comes to ask him questions, he replies with only one word. He only says yes. Aside from saying yes, he does not speak. Commentary. In the third kind of false sophistry, this person attentively contemplates his mind and finds that everything is existent. He looks into his mind and sees that the 12 categories of living beings all undergo birth and death in this place of existence. He has a realization based on existence. Actually, he has not realized any fusion. The sutra only says that in order to describe his mistake, he contemplates living beings and says, ah, they all exist. Perceiving this principle, he thinks he has become enlightened and has realized the fusion. When anyone comes to ask him questions, he replies with only one word. No matter what drama he is asked about, he only says yes. Would it be a good idea for me to live a home life and become a monk? You ask him. Yes. Would it be good for me to take the 5 precepts? Yes. What would be the best thing for me to do? Yes. Aside from saying yes, he does not speak. He doesn't say anything but yes, so you think, oh, this is really one Wudchen. He must be a lofty Shanghan. The Dharma he speaks is so wonderful that I don't even understand it. It's wonderful precisely because you don't understand it. For example, if you understand what I'm now lecturing in this sutra, then it's not wonderful. The Dharma master keeps talking and talking, but I don't understand what he's saying, you may say. In that case, it's wonderful for you. Simply because you don't understand it is wonderful. Once you understand it, it's not wonderful anymore. Why not? Because you understand it. Whatever you don't understand is wonderful. Therefore, if you want the wonderful, don't study the Buddha Dharma. If you don't study, then you won't know it and it will be wonderful. Regardless of what you say, he says yes. Why is that? He believes he has become enlightened on account of the word yes, and so he is transmitting that Dharma to you. Sutra 4th, this person perceives both existence and non-existence. Experiencing this branching, his mind becomes confused. When anyone comes to ask questions, he tells them, existence is also non-existence, but within non-existence there is no existence. It is all sophistry and does not stand up under scrutiny. Commentary. His fourth fallacious theory concerns existence and non-existence. What is this theory? He says things both exist and do not exist, but he says things that don't exist cannot also exist, and things that exist cannot also not exist. He does not know whether it's existent or non-existent. He talks widely like a drunkard. 4th, this person perceives both existence and non-existence. Within the formation skandha, he perceives the formation skandha to be like waves flowing ceaselessly, so he says that it exists. He says the pauses within the ceaseless flow are non-existent. Experiencing this branching, his mind becomes confused. His state has produced a branching off just like on a tree, so he declares that things both exist and do not exist. His mind is confused because he doesn't have any true wisdom or samadhi. His wisdom and his samadhi are not balanced. At this point, he becomes attached and cannot find his way out of the mess. He is confronted with the wrong road and doesn't know which road is right. When anyone comes to ask questions and request instruction in the Dharma, he tells them, existence is also non-existence. Things that exist also do not exist, but within non-existence there is no existence. But things that do not exist cannot come into existence. What already exists is also non-existent. However, what is non-existent does not exist. Ultimately, what kind of theory is that? It is all sophistry. That kind of reasoning is fallacious. He doesn't know what he's saying. That's why I said he talks like a drunkard. And what he says does not stand up under scrutiny. There's no way to hold a reasonable discussion with him. What can you do then? You can only use my method, which is to slap him across the mouth and see if he still talks about existence and non-existence. If you slap him, he might react by asking, why did you hit me? But you don't exist, remember? So my slapping you also doesn't exist. There's another tactic. You can take a knife and say, hey, I'm gonna kill you, and see whether or not he exists. You cannot reason with him. What he says cannot stand up under scrutiny, and you shouldn't ask him about it. Sutra. Because of these speculations, which are empty sophistries, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the body nature. This is a fifth external teaching, which postulates four distorted false theories that are total speculation based on the sophistry of immortality. Commentary. Because of these four theories or speculations, which are empty sophistries, his theories are impossible imaginings. The things he says simply cannot be. There is no truth in his doctrines. For that reason, he will fail to externalism fell into externalism. Why is it called an external teaching? Because the principles in it are improper. His knowledge and views are wrong, so the principles he espouses are not ultimate. They don't get to the bottom of things, and he will become confused about the body nature. He doesn't know the true path to enlightenment. The genuine path of Buddha is not clear to him. This is the fifth external teaching, which postulates four distorted, false theories that are total speculation based on the sophistry of immortality. In the first theory, he says that he is both alive and dead, both existent and non-existent, both increasing and decreasing, and in the second case, he answers all questions with the word no. He says no, no, no all day long, never saying any other word. No matter what anyone says to him, he just says no. If you ask 1,000 or 10,000 questions, you get that many replies of no. In the third case, he says yes to everything. Can I be a thief? You ask. Yes. Can I take the precepts? Yes. Is it all right to eat excrement? Yes. Is it all right to drink urine? Yes. Can you die? Yes. Can you go on living in this world? Yes. No matter what you say, he says yes 1,000 or 10,000 times. There is nothing that is not a yes. His yes signifies existence. Everything exists. In the fourth case, which is the one under discussion right now, he says that existence implies non-existence, but that non-existence does not imply existence. Ultimately, what kind of principle is that? Is the kind of principle that he espoused these four distorted theories based on the sophistry of immortality. His theories are incoherent and unclear. They are total speculation with no reality to them. In the past, I explained the nature that is totally speculation and attachment, the nature that arises dependent on something else, and the perfectly accomplished real nature. I don't know if everyone is clear about the principle. What is the nature that is totally speculation and attachment? Suppose you see a rope lying on the ground on a night when there isn't much moonlight. You may think, oh, is it a snake? That's the nature that is totally speculation and attachment. Actually, it's a rope, but you make the false judgment that it is a snake. Suppose you see the silhouette of a tree or a plant of a moonless night. A tree or plant on a moonless night. And you think, oh, could that be a ghost? And you get scared. Maybe at night you see a dog and you think, oh, is that a wolf or a tiger? That's the nature that is totally speculation and attachment at work. When you get a better look, you realize that it's just a dog, not a wolf or a tiger. That's the nature that arises dependent on something else. Based on the dog, your nature that is totally speculation and attachment comes into being. It is really a dog. What is a dog? It is an animal. Because you have the nature that is totally speculation and attachment, you mistake it for a wolf, a tiger, or some sort of strange creature. The same thing happens when you see a plant. You thought that rope was a snake, but when you get a better look, you see that it's only a rope. The rope is called the nature that arises dependent on something else. What is the nature that arises dependent on something else? Well, what is the rope made from? It's made from hemp. The hemp is called the perfectly accomplished real nature. Hemp can be made into a rope, and that is the nature that arises dependent on something else. Based on the perfectly accomplished real nature, the nature that arises dependent on something else comes into being. Then, when you do not see and recognize it dearly, the nature that is totally speculation and attachment comes into being. Here, the follower of this external teaching is the same. What he says isn't the way things really are. He comes up with these false theories that are totally based on speculation and attachment.